Have you ever wanted to start a project so bad and it just felt like there was one barrier after the other and the weight of the blank canvas just could not be weaned away? Hi, I'm Jennifer Evans with Empowering Wellness Counseling Solutions, and today we are talking about this idea of perceived expectations in the freeze moment that we get in the second we want to create. And I talked about this week creatives and highly anxious creatives. But I want you to know that entrepreneurs kind of go through the same thing. So even if they are not necessarily creative in the space of their entrepreneurship, they still have a lot of the same struggles. And that's because stress in the brain is not seen as good, bad, or indifferent. It's seen as life or death. And when stress comes into the brain, it's filtered right into that emotional space, and it's gearing up the parasympathetic, the limbic system. Fight, flight, or freeze takes hold, and we are cruising along in that negative dynamic. An emotional reaction produces a cognitive distortion, causing attachment to come up. And you think, why is attachment in my business endeavor? How does attachment work when I'm just trying to create a piece of art? 25% of it. That's why. Because attachment is a part of community. And when you can't trust community, you're not going to trust yourself. Remember that trust feedback loop. And that negative narrative will be pulled on to say, I'm not worthy. I don't have any value. Why does any of this matter? People are going to reject me. Abandonment. I don't want to be in obligation. Fear of success. It pulls on the amygdala. And all of our past stress and trauma comes up, creates that filter. We pull ourselves into a perceived reality. We are now in suffering and despair. As we talked about last week, we're actually asking other people to suffer and to be in suffering and despair in order to validate our own suffering and despair. That misery loves company really comes out a lot right there. We have perceived expectations of what people should and could be doing and what we should or could be doing. They're not going to like this. They're totally going to laugh at me. They're going to reject me. That perceived expectation, attachment, and trauma. Big feedback loop in the creative entrepreneurial mindset. And what holds us back and creates, that is the anxiety. There's 2,200 feedback loops, 13 to the power of 3. And what comes up a lot with that fear of the blank canvas, perceived expectations, attachment, and that kind of negative narrative trauma. It's a very, very overwhelming place to be. And it causes us to shut down, just to close that. It's not a closing, it's just kicking off momentum for more feedback loops to keep going off, right? And that's where we get in the tornado. And we talked yesterday, so go to yesterday's video. Once we're in that tornado, we have to choose. Do we stay spiraling in the tornado, or do we find momentum through positive flow states to kick ourselves up into awareness and intention? And so why high achievers and anxious producers do this more often is that there is no neurotypical. It's just happening to everybody, but the anxious high achiever has a higher likelihood of sticking to that performance place, to getting into those performance drives. That perceived control that we talked about is the OG feedback loop. And because they want to hop from one perceived sense of control because they see more of their potential and they need more of their potential to be realized through those external validators. And if we go a long way back, one of the invalidating environments is this performance-driven environment. Your emotions mean nothing. Get out of here with those emotions. Give me, give me, give me more. Work harder, achieve more. And that is why we get stuck in that feedback loop so regularly. Everybody else is in feedback loops. They're just kind of ignoring it, but you want that perceived control. And so you keep hopping between that section, that space, and all the feedback loops. And so that negative dynamic is that neurological basis of expectation-induced overwhelm, is that these perceived expectations cause us to feel like we can't depend on anybody, or we don't want to depend on anybody. It pulls up all of our past and it keeps reiterating, and then it pulls us into all the other performance-based feedback loops. And how this looks on our blank canvas is a lot of projections of self-sabotage and scarcity mindset. Some fear of failure and some fear of success, but it's usually seen in self-sabotage and scarcity mindset. People aren't going to want this. They're going to reject it. Are your big ones. And there's a lot of little cognitions that kind of come up to those two metacognitions. And so what do we want to do about this? There's some practical techniques that we will get into, so stay tuned for later on in the video, that will help us to transform creativity into a forward momentum that gives us not just one product, but a whole line of products. And this filter that we can pull into to allow us output lines at each level that will give us another opportunity for success. And so let's start with this blank canvas fear. And this idea that projection of all of our hopes and dreams are on this blank canvas. Everything, that whole negative dynamic is on there. And it's just staring at us, kind of, they're all going to laugh at you. For anybody who had the old, you had to get a tape for it, maybe a CD of Adam Sandler's original skits. He had a mom. They're all going to laugh at you. And he would sit there and neutrally talk about, Mom, like, it's just a bunch of friends. It's not that big of a deal. I'm just going to go and, like, hang out. Like, it's not that big of a deal. They're all going to laugh at you. And so it's a lighthearted way to understand what this blank canvas is it's all of these fears that have been built up being projected onto what that should and could be, what we should and could be. And we put so much perfectionism in it that we're missing a huge opportunity. And tomorrow we're going to talk about, and we're going to explore that spectrum of perfectionism, performance anxiety, and procrastination. But for now, we are focused on what it is that we're putting out there and what is preventing us from being able to be present. And so what is causing that is these ideas of outcome-based performance. We are missing the idea of being able to be present in the processes that we need to be in. And instead, we are trying to focus on outcomes. We want to know what the product is. We don't want to worry about the processes to get these products. And so if we go into this idea of a funnel, a process, we will find that we can begin to filter in the funnel this precognitive state. sorting out what reality is versus what reality isn't, valid and invalid data points. And as we collect the valid data points and we discard the invalid data points, we are now honing in to a filtered reaction. We're narrowing our awareness in order to be able to keep what serves us and let go of what doesn't serve us. When you're looking at an open schedule, because creatives and entrepreneurs often have little structure in their day, and it's what they lean on to justify avoidance. If you look at that open structure, you can see the value in it, or you can see the despair. Gratitude and despair are on the same spectrum. I talk about that in my second book of Key Steps to Live a Happier and Healthier Life, Part 2, Emotional Resiliency. And so as we narrow the awareness and we can see the opportunity and the despair, we can maximize on that through recalibrating into a gratitude-based state, finding the value, finding those grapple hooks of creating structure one step at a time. But what we often do is we don't create structure one step at a time. We throw all the structure on us. We get more perceived expectation, and then we feel flattened again, like we can't do it. We will create personalized entry points to bypass the blank page terror that's going to be individualized to you using my coaching program. And that'll transform the overwhelming choices into structured, creative frameworks. To look at the sensitivity of the creative as an advantage rather than a limitation. And as we pull all of this together, have over 20 years of experience. I pride myself, and some of the best feedback that I get from my clients is I tailor and individualize my services, my supports, the way I help you to understand and build awareness, the way I help you to lean in on, to find that acceptance, and the way I share the strategies that we will use are all based on your individualized needs. It's not just a blanket, this is what you do. If you want 1,000 followers and $50,000 a month, you do exactly what I did. That's all I know. Do what I did. No. I have 20 years of experience. I have a master's degree and a license in mental health counseling. I am an expert in behavior. I listen and absorb all types of entrepreneurs, and I know the meta. I know exactly the framework of what people are thinking and how they are acting. And I take that to personally coach you for your entrepreneurial win. So whatever it is you want to do to help you break out of the hamster wheel, to live a life of freedom and purpose, to be able to be an authentic, true version of yourself, I take that information and I ascertain it and I zoom out for you, because it's really hard as humans to zoom out. And I let you see the whole picture, and then you start choosing the areas you want to look at. And what that does is it creates places for you to start getting excited about actually engaging in that blank canvas. What it does is it gives you the capacity that you've been letting go of so that you can continue to create things. And those funnels start creating performance avenues. And so you learn where people are at receiving you on each of the funnels. You accept your good enough self in each of those levels of the funnels. And you're able to produce. We stay away from performance because we know it's an anxious feedback loop. So what we're doing is we are creating processes that match each level of the funnel. We're identifying where our target audience is for each level of the funnel. And we are accepting that there is value at each level of the funnel. And when we can connect to those three things, you can make $50,000 a month. No, I'm just kidding. But you can. You can do whatever you want to. Your ability is limitless. And it's not about the followers. It's about the product. And you are the product. So connect to who your authentic self is. Find that narrative. Click and schedule a free 15-minute wellness insight so I can help you develop that narrative. I'm Jennifer Evans with Empowering Wellness Counseling Solutions. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching my video today. If you like it, please share it with somebody. We are all stuck in these loops, and it's important for people to understand that you are not alone, that there's no shame in this game, and that this is a predictable behavior we expect because of how the brain works. And if you like the idea of knowing that you are part of the majority, not the minority, if you want to know more about the brain, how to help with social and emotional intelligence, how to understand how it is to calm down for being an anxious high achiever, then please subscribe and stay connected to my feed. I've got tons of videos that go through the neurological process of trying to retrain the brain for a response reaction and letting go of this 95% of decision making that is implicitly driven and reactionary. And for my couples out there, I'm really excited to click on the link right now and be able to get and sign up for, we're opening up this week, our couples master class. We have asynchronous learning, that is you going in on your own time with your partner, no diagnoses, no records, treatment plans, no notes, nothing. It's you and your partner learning the foundational key principles to what builds a happier and healthier self. And the whole intention, through 27 lessons broken down into little two-minute bites, is to write the next chapter in your love story. So go in, sign up, subscribe. I've got a lot more in store for you. So go in, sign up, subscribe. I've got a lot more in store for you.